Committee meeting for the month of February, and as always, we'll start with invocation and the pledge. We can all stand, please. Let us pray. Praise God. Heavenly Father, we're so thankful to be able to gather here today. Help us and encourage our hearts to give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding and patience so that we might be able to help our county. Yes, O Lord, within all ways. We especially pray for all of those who are sick or injured are struggling this day. Encourage their hearts and uplift them and bless and meet their needs according to thy will. Because in all things we pray and we ask. In the name of our Savior Christ Jesus. Amen. Amen. Face the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. We had one person that sign up for public input. Is Bobby Steele here?
I am.
Yes, sir. And so would you come forward, please, to the podium, state your name and the subject that you're speaking about. So you got 5 minutes, sir. Okay.
My name's Robert Steele, and I'm associated with Concrete Supply Company. And what I would like to speak to is the ordinance on page 2 to do with concrete plants. I think it's there. I moved to this county in 1973. Went into concrete business in 1981. We had a plant located right where Chick-fil-A sits now on 544. We decided in 1985 to buy a bigger tract of land. We purchased 15 acres off of what is now Big Block Road. At that time, it was a dirt road that went to nowhere. We zoned it. It was changed to zoning that would meet for a concrete plant. We built the concrete plant and the block plant on that facility. At that time, as I'm sure some of y'all know, there was nothing in that area, nothing. Shortly afterwards, 1992, Glenmere was developed. We addressed it with the developers at that time to put in a buffer and whatnot, and nobody paid any attention to it. They built right up to us. A few years later, Windsor Plantation was developed, and they're up their property line. Well, what happened, and that's what brought on the regulations that we have today, what happened was the homeowners started calling regular. Noise, we're getting woke up, etc., etc., etc. Phone call after phone call after phone call. And they were told that we were going to move. Well, needless to say, there was no validity in that. We had too big of investment on that piece of property. So we started working with, at that time, it was, I wrote down, Paul Whitten and Steve Gosnell, which of course I know are no longer with the county. And they solicited information from all the suppliers as to what regulations would we propose going forward to try to prevent something from like this happening. And needless to say, we came up with what you have today, the ordinance that exists. The problem we see, according to this, what we understand is there's been a recommendation for eliminating closing in plants and then also changing the distance, the setback distance. We, in 2018, put up a new facility on Old Woodward Road that was the first one with this new ordinance. And as I'm sure most everybody in here knows, it is completely enclosed. We spent an additional $450,000 in closing that plant, but we enclosed it. And we put up the walls, we did everything per the regulation. And now we want to approve this, change things. The only thing I would say is, and I would tell you this in all the years I've been doing it, and I'm still doing it today, I would recommend to the council, you certainly don't want to go backwards. There's no way. You don't want to go backwards. We've already been through that. Some of these people sitting in this room have been through it, I know, personally. And we just don't want to do that, just like with the setbacks. We got a setback of 500 feet, I think we're wanting to move it to 250. You just don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. And that's why I just wanted to get this out there, because I feel like you've got a regulation for a real problem child, which is a concrete plant. It is, I'll be the first to admit it, I've done it all my life. But I think you've got a regulation there that this county can live with, and now we're talking about backing it up. The only other thing I would say, I know some people in this room are probably thinking this is sour grapes. Well, look, I'll tell you this. We are in the process right now of doing due diligence on a piece of property in Horry County to put up another concrete plant. And we are having an engineer design it enclosed. So there's nothing for me to gain, because I'm sitting here telling you to keep it enclosed, and I'm getting ready to put up another one that's going to be enclosed. So I would just like for the county to consider those. Actually, if anything, I would tell you the regulations ought to be stronger. They certainly don't need to be less. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving right along. I would urge everyone, we have a full agenda this morning, so time is of the essence, so please be mindful of your time that you use. So, moving right along, review and approval of agenda contents. Need a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes of the last meeting of December last year.
So moved.
Any changes, deletions? Everything good? Okay. Moving along to discussion items. Recognize Heather Davis and Desiree Jackson for receiving AICP certification. Ms. Stevie Brown.
Yeah, I want to take this time to personally congratulate Heather Davis and Desiree Jackson on recently becoming AICP certified. This is a significant accomplishment and true testament to their dedication, expertise, and commitment to the planning profession. I'd also like to read a quote from the American Institute of Certified Planners, and it says, "The American Institute of Certified Planners provides the only nationwide independent verification of planners' qualifications. Certified planners pledge to uphold high standards of practice, ethics, and professional conduct to keep their skills sharp and up to date by continuously pursuing advanced professional education." And just to give you a little bit of a background on what you have to go through to even sit for this exam, it requires specific education and qualifications. It's about a 3 to 5 hour test. The suggested hours that put in for studying for the test is about 100 hours plus, and also 3 to 6 months preparation. So with all that, just goes to show how dedicated they have to be to even attempt this. And I just want to let you know that both of you know that your success, not only your hard work, but also your passion for advancing the practice of planning is noted. I just want to congratulate you again on a well-deserved achievement. And if you both would stand up, please, if you recognize me. Thank you.
Sound like a pretty tough test. All right. Thank you, sir, Stevie. Congratulations, those. Up next, Mr. Ray Dunham, Parks and Recs, Canton.
Yes, good morning. I'd like to recognize Robert Freeman. Robert is our Deputy Director over Parks. Back in December, just prior to our state conference, he was recognized as the District Merit Award winner from the state for our particular district. So that was an award that was recognized by his peers, and we are very proud of him for receiving that award. Secondly, Robert, back in January, into January, just completed a 2-year program through the National Recreation and Parks Association known as the Parks Maintenance Management School. This is an extensive school where each year, for the past 2 years, Robert has spent a week in cold Wheeling, West Virginia, learning about all of the trends, the benchmarks, the standards related to parks and park maintenance. And so has completed that, which in my mind, and that graduating class puts him as one of the top 60 recreation park professionals. So he went through that school, and we were very proud of him and honor him for it. Robert, if you'd stand up, please.
He works very hard, and so, and I know that his heart is in it. He does a good job and stuff, part of this team and stuff. I've seen him out and about. All righty, moving right along, beach renourishment update, Kathleen Kelly, or Mr.
I'm gonna handle this one real quick. In the interest of time, I'm not gonna go through this entire presentation, but I will give you a brief update. As you know, they have completed the renourishment in the North Myrtle Beach, which is the Reach 1 section you can see on your map up there. They completed that recently. They found a cannonball. Apparently, it was in the news. You've seen that. On the first week of March, they're going to start the Arcadian Shores, which is circled in green there. That is a repetition of the previous two renourishments that the county has done from Singleton Swash to the Apache Pier. The portion that is between Apache Pier and North Myrtle Beach is a section that does not have adequate public access. It is not a section that we have done in the past. I'm not doing it this time as well. The city has teamed up to take part in our non-federal renourishment on the northern end of Myrtle Beach for the first time. And then they will proceed on into Reach 2 and to Reach 3. Reach 3 will finish in the summer. But I can answer questions if you want, but that's it in a nutshell. I know we've got a lot on the agenda.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. Moving right along, and next up, Mr. Bob Kemp, Chairman of the Solid Waste Authority. Y'all really loaded us up with information in our packet, I'll tell you that. Mr. Bob.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I just want to give you very briefly a little background before Dr. Beam comes up. As you are probably aware, the landfill, our Class 2 and Class 3 capabilities are limited on how to handle them. Right now, we're forecasting that our Class 2 capacity will be exceeded in 2029, and our Class 3 capability will be exceeded in 2051. During the past year and a half, the board has been receiving a lot of information and discussing in public meetings this issue. And we directed staff to develop a program that would identify opportunities to expand capacity on our existing site that would not require transferring solid waste to another facility, and that would minimize any commingling that we have to do between Class 1 and Class 2. Subsequent to that, our consultants identified 3 areas on our existing property that could be expanded to accommodate that growth for several years. Okay. As we develop this, any expansion, if it occurs, will take several years to accomplish. This is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take several years, require several permits during that to obtain that. The first of those permits is the Corps of Engineers, and we initiated that process late last year, submitted an application to that. And I would ask Dr. Beeman to come up and explain to you where we are on that process.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May it please the committee, my name is Wayne Bean, and I'm joined today with Tom Ballou and Craig Fortner. We've been privileged to work with the authority on trying to help them figure out how they're going to, over the next 45 years, dispose of about 43 million tons of solid waste in Horry County. We have submitted a permit that would allow the authority to expand at its original site on Highway 90. We've been in that process, and I want to ask Tom Ballou to get up and say a few words about the process, where we are in the permitting process with the Corps of Engineers and the Water Quality Division at the Department of Environmental Services. So Tom, would you just say a couple of words of where we are in that process? Okay. Yeah, please.
Good morning. Good morning. So Wayne noticed, we've been asked by the authority to assist them with long-term permitting process for the future management of solid waste in Horry County. We started a review coordination, working very closely with the Solid Waste Authority staff, excuse me, Ed Marr and Stephanie Todd, and also Craig Fortner, to develop a plan to do exactly that. Excuse me. The plan consists of two elements: a permit application that details the specifics of our proposal, supported by what's called an alternatives analysis, which is a very detailed study of all the various different options that we looked at to achieve that overall project purpose of being able to manage solid waste here for the next 45 years. The permit application and the alternatives analysis, and looked at various alternatives, also looked at issues related to mitigation of unavoidable impacts. All that was submitted to the Corps of Engineers in November. And rather in December, they issued a public notice. We had a 30-day comment period, which just as recently ended. We are very anxiously awaiting the Corps' response in terms of the public comments that will have been received by them. We will be then given an opportunity to reply to those comments, provide additional information as requested, and otherwise begin that process of working in coordination with the Corps and the other agencies involved in this whole process to ultimately end up with a permit from the Corps to fill wetlands as needed to achieve our project purpose. The public notice, of course, is available to the public, and I believe the alternatives analysis has been distributed to all the council members. There's a lot of information in there, very detailed study of pretty much every aspect of this and how best to move forward. Based on our study, on our analysis of all the various considerations that go into this project, it was our determination that what they call the least damaging practicable alternative, which is a very specific technical term, the least damaging practicable alternative to achieve our project purpose is in fact the construction of 3 new landfill cells on the existing Highway 90 facility. 2 new C&D Class 2 landfills and 1 MSW Class 3 landfill. This will give us capacity for the next 45 years, and it's a very ambitious permit, but we're confident that we have the technical and the regulatory basis to move forward with that proposal. As I said, that's all been put out for the public comment. We've yet to see any of those comments, but again, we're very anxiously waiting to see exactly what has come back. And we can anticipate a lot of what those comments will be, and we will then spend the next probably 4 to 6 months developing a response to those comments, providing additional information as requested, and otherwise working through that process with our partners, with the Corps of Engineers, who have been very, very good with us so far. We had a very productive pre-application meeting with them before all this started, and we're waiting to hear back from them. So if there's any specific questions, I'd be glad to respond to those out. Yes, sir.
2 things. One, I'm not sure that we did get the alternatives analysis. So I think we need to see that before we can.
It's a single concise document that could be emailed to you. It's
Sure.
about 18 or 8 or 9 megabytes, so it can be emailed.
Okay.
And it has a very detailed description of all the various alternatives, looked at issues about the mitigation, issues looking at public interest review, looking at NEPA considerations, and then of course a bunch of figures showing all this and spelling it all out visually as well.
From a high-level view, though, what other alternatives might there be to expand the life cycle other than expansion?
So we looked at various things. The course process requires that you look at a couple of specific things. One is what they call a no-action alternative, which would involve no wetland filling at all. And that would include things like dramatically expanding recycling, for example, maybe going to incineration, potentially trying to find a site that doesn't have any wetlands on it, going to a site other than maybe perhaps even outside of the county, those kinds of theoretical.
So back up those first 2. Why are those not legitimate alternatives as opposed to expansion?
As far as,
Well, so
Recycle, expansion of recycling and/or incineration.
I'm not in the best position to answer, but I can tell you that the Solid Waste Authority is one of the leaders of recycling. We recycle about 20% of the material of the solid waste overall. To get to 100% is well beyond the technical capabilities of the technology and the industry as it exists today. Maybe in some distant future.
Why is that?
I'm going to let other people speak to that. I think
Okay.
Ed probably better, but there are just limitations to how much can be recycled. There's certain materials that can't be recycled under current technology. And so then what do you do with that? It's got to be either put into a landfill or incinerated. And there are some places, there are certain countries that don't landfill anything, but they do a lot of, it's very mandatory, very sort of front-end recycling plus incineration as well. And there are all sorts of issues associated with those alternatives.
Let me just, because this has been on my mind, like, what if we were to enact some sort of mandatory recycling program in the county, would that expand the life cycle of the landfill without the need for an expansion and filling in of wetlands?
I think it would extend it. I can't say it would prevent this point, because there's always some things.
Well, how much are we talking about extending it? How long?
I don't think we looked at that. But Craig, you going to have any add to that?
No, we did not look into that specifically.
There's a limit, I think, of 600 tons a day on incineration right now by state law.
Okay.
But
But I'm not even talking about incineration. I'm talking about,
The main issue is the technological limitations. There are certain materials that just can't be cycled. There's no, a lot of that's market driven. And of course, that has changed over the years, and the technology just doesn't exist. Plastic film, for example, it's not done.
I understand. I have a hard time accepting the fact that the recommendation would be to fill in 120 acres of wetlands when we have not explored every other option that may be available to us, including action taken by this council to enact some sort of recycling program. And so, I'm not speaking for everybody, I'm speaking for myself, and this affects a lot of my constituents.
Are you talking about a mandatory recycling?
Yes.
For the county?
Mhm.
Well, so if we're successful with our permit application, we'll have this additional capacity. The way things stand right now, we believe that'll give us 45 years of capacity. Going forward, I expect the technology, every aspect of our society as it relates to solid waste will change and evolve, and as it has in the past. And I would expect that 20% to go up. Will it reach 100%? We don't know that, and it certainly is nowhere even close to that today. So we're here in the here and now, 2026.
But
Okay.
if this other stuff doesn't work out, and we have.
You have a
place to
backup
put-
plan.
Yes, sir. We have
But-
a place to put this material.
But I think that creates an opportunity.
Yes, sir. We have
But-
a place to put this material.
But I think that creates an opportunity to extend our lifespan here pretty dramatically, potentially. But that's going to require a major reorientation of how every person in this county, every visitor in this county deals with their waste. And we're not there yet. Maybe someday we will be there. That'd be an aspirational goal, I think, for everyone, of course.
I would maybe argue that we're closer to that than you might think.
Well, I'd encourage you to read that on alternatives analysis.
Yeah,
Get your
if you
copy
could
of
please
it.
send that to all of us, I'd love to read it.
I'm a pretty avid recycler, and I can tell you that I'm at about 50%. So,
Sure.
if we get everybody on board to 50%, that'd be fantastic. That still leaves a whole lot of unrecyclable waste, unfortunately.
Of course.
And you said you had another question. What was the other?
Oh, the other question was, have we been sending out as much C&D to outside counties as possible, or?
Ed, would you answer that?
Yeah, we don't, all C&D materials C&D materials that are delivered to us, we don't send materials out. We dispose of the materials that are sent to us. Private sector who collects those materials can bring it to us, or they can take it to a transfer station, they could take it wherever they would like to. Not all the C&D in the county comes to us, but what does, we dispose of it at our facility.
Do we have a transfer station in the county?
The authority doesn't have a transfer station.
You recycle some of your C&D?
Yes, we do. Right now, the facility itself, we recycle or divert from disposal about 115,000 tons a year of what's brought to our facility. And then we process through our shredding operations another 30,000 tons. So we're close to 150,000 tons a year diversion, and that's 20%. But that still leaves 400,000 plus tons that are going in for disposal. So it's a very large volume, and it's growing. As our population grows, as you know, that's also going to impact our ability to keep up with recycling and the volumes that are going to be generated. So doing the best we can at this point.
Could we prohibit C&D deposits in our landfill by regulation or law? David? Or the other David?
I believe you.
He has that look that you could, but you may not want to.
Okay.
So getting back to the thing about recycling, so we certainly anticipate this to be one of the major issues raised from the public comments. You have to see that, but that's my anticipation. It's an important issue. And again, I think it's an aspirational goal moving forward. I think it's absolutely in the county's interest and the authority's interest to maximize that as much as is practicable. Just as an anecdote, as I was going through this whole process, there was a thing on NPR not too long ago in somewhere out west where they were touting this new technology to sort solid waste using a system that's commonly used in manufacturing process to actually separate stuff. They were very proud of themselves in making these major technological advances to sort, but then sort of hit a dead end, because then what do you do with the stuff that once it's been sorted? They created this stream of material that had been separated, but there's no way to actually recycle it. It's a first step, a necessary step in that. But there still is the issue about how you then take it from that product, that pure product of whatever material it is, into something hopefully usable someday. And I think everyone should be striving for more and more of that, as much as possible, absolutely.
Dennis,
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You haven't been around here long enough to know, but make it inconvenient, like banning C&D. And then you're gonna hire another crew to go through these woods and pick up furniture and mattresses and TVs, and because the woods are gonna be full of them, because they're gonna go down a dirt road and dump, go down a dirt road and dump. Right now, there's a lot of guys that go to these tire places and say, hey, we'll take your tires off for $1 a piece. So they give them the tires, all they do is go down and throw them in ditches. So if you don't make it convenient, you're gonna create a big problem. 'Cause I can remember seeing almost whole household furniture. Al, you, same thing.
There's major push-pull on both ends of that whole process, and it's going to require a major reorientation of every individual
Sure.
to make that work.
Look, and I'm not trying to virtue signal at all. I don't recycle at all, period.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and other than cardboard, but, because you can't get away from it these days. But perhaps that is an alternative that we should be looking at a little bit more closely to help expand the life of the current cells that we have, rather than,
I will tell you, also.
you could do it as safely as possible, and you could make it as perfect as you can, and it's still going to be an unpopular perception from the community, filling in wetlands for trash.
Our alternatives analysis with the Corps of Engineers of wetlands, driven largely by the wetland impact number, and to anything that can be done to extend the life of the landfill, these landfills that we get permitted, hopefully, will go toward reducing future wetland impacts. And 50 years from now, hopefully it's a very different conversation about all this, but here and now, kind of where we are.
I understand planning for the future. I'm just trying to see if there's alternatives to help avoid it. That's all. Yeah.
I agree, so we need to.
Not to bust your bubble, or in Myrtle Beach, you nailed it. The tourists, the people that come here, 20 million people a year stay in Myrtle Beach, stay in hotels, and we missed the boat a long time ago. We didn't put in our ordinance that when you build a hotel, you have to put a recycle center in the hotel, because right now there's no space to do recycle. And so all the garbage comes from every room, every place into that big dumpster and goes to landfill and gets dumped, doesn't even have a chance to get recycled. It just goes straight into the landfill. That's 50–60% of your garbage right there, 20 million tourists a year. And that's not going to be fixed because the hotels are already built. There are no rebuild them, So it's a battle.
I don't want to underestimate the ingenuity of people, so
Well,
we ask them to
but
do it.
what
I'm sure
they're
they'll
looking
figure out
at,
a way to do it.
But what they're looking at now is alternatives, and also, they've been working on recycle. If you've been here for 15 years on council, they've brought that to us, please, 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 begging us to make a law that says they have to recycle. I mean, we need to recycle.
I understand.
Yeah, but what they're doing is great,
No doubt.
doing good.
Are there any other questions?
I agree though, and so, Dennis and stuff, we need to explore
Oh, absolutely.
alternatives and such. There may be something out there and such that we haven't really looked at and stuff, considered and stuff, because, it's a sticky issue. We understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank y'all. Righty, moving right along, Miss Judy Olmstead. Exercise renewal option for concession and lease agreement for Eddie's Logger. And the next one's yours too, so you can just hang around.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Paradis Lagardère is one of our food and beverage concessionaires at the airport and the operator of Starbucks and Salt and Tide Bar. It's approaching the end of their initial 5-year term and has requested to exercise the available 5-year renewal option under their concession agreement. Paradis was awarded concession rights through a competitive RFP process in 2020, and the agreement commenced in 2021. Paradis pays the greater of the minimum annual guarantee of $85,000 and percentage fees of 6% on gross revenues up to $1.9 million and 10% on gross revenues above that. Paradis has paid us close to $750,000 in revenue over the initial term. Starbucks, of course, remains one of our most popular concessions, and we believe that both concepts continue to enhance our food and beverage concession program. Extending the term also provides the added benefit of closely aligning the expiration dates of all of our food and beverage concession agreements, with all contracts ending within 7 months of one another. Paradis is not in default of any obligations under this agreement, and HCDA recommends consenting to Paradis exercising this renewal option presented for your consideration.
Your question? Motion centered on the council, correct?
That's just discussion.
Just discussion items.
Okay.
It's
I thought it was a lease.
it's contemplated in the lease
Okay.
agreement.
Good enough. Next up, a resolution authorizing transfer of funds from project. Ms. Judy
Thank you,
Olmstead.
Dan. As the airport has seen an increased demand in air passenger traffic over the last several years, the security screening checkpoint operated by the TSA has seen extended wait times during peak travel days, causing potential missed flights for travelers and a general unsatisfactory customer experience as the queue for the checkpoint frequently overflows into and down the ticketing hall. Using one of our approved on-call architect engineering firms, RS&H, a conceptual drawing for the expansion has been approved by airport staff and the TSA and is completed, and schematic design can now begin. We began this fiscal year with a checkpoint capital budget of $750,000. The architect engineering firm is now ready to proceed with full design, and we anticipate a contract amount of approximately $1.5 million. This transfer from our terminal contingency will allow the airport to proceed with contract execution for design prior to July of 2026. A solicitation for the construction manager at risk is currently in process, and we hope to start work in July. This is presented for consideration.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Any question? Thank you. Moving right along, resolution, Horry County Council to honor Dick and Carol Patterson for their volunteerism and statewide recognition of their effort. Mr. Cole. How are you doing this morning?
Good, how are you? I'm here, there is a resolution in your packet to honor Dick and Carol Patterson. They are part of our Marine Memorial Committee, and they have been honored by South Carolina Parks and Recreation Association as the 2025 Community Champion of the Year.
So moved.
All in favor, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you
Mr.
next
Chairman.
time.
Can you allow them a minute to lead the solid waste authority?
Sure. Ms. Pam, so you can lead the pack out.
Okay.
Okey dokey. Round them up.
They need to go back to work.
I understand. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for coming. Yes, sir. Where's that pen? Danny got his. Okay. All righty. Moving along, item C, a resolution approving allocation of council community benefit funds. Ms. Ashland, so got a packet.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got one here this morning. It's from Augustine High School specifically for their baseball team. Funds will be used to purchase field equipment and equipment for the team. We have $1,000 from District 8.
Motion. Hear it on. Thank you. Moving right along to ordinance, and get into some serious. An ordinance to prohibit camping now on county property, to amend the rules of conduct for county boat landing, and to enact rules of conduct for county parks and facilities. Director of Parks, Mr. Dunn.
Yes, thank you again. Just to refresh your memory regarding the ordinance here prohibiting camping on county property, we've discussed this previously twice at the INR committee meetings. This has gone to council, passed second reading, and then it was remanded back for amendments to that. So what we're here to discuss today is just the amendments related to this ordinance. The amendments are in your packet. There was also a handout that was given to you just for ease and convenience. All the changes in the amended items here are in red, and specifically based on feedback from council. What we have done here is put unauthorized camping instead of just prohibited camping, and change that language. So some of the feedback that was related to prohibiting all of the camping on properties is now, we're requesting this to be amended to unauthorized. This was to keep from prohibiting any type of camping on the Rural Rec Center Arena property in the future, as well as if there was a situation, for example, where the scouts wanted to use a recreation center and do a jamboree and camp on our property, we wanted to give them that provision to be able to do so, where our current ordinance, with the ordinance that was originally proposed, would not allow them to do that. So what this would do is it would be an unauthorized camping. To be authorized, it would have to go through a permitting process through the Recreation Department. We have that ability to permit that through our current recreation system, and it would allow us to vet that process, such as the scouts coming in to say, you know, the who, what, where, when, and why they would want to camp on our property, how many people would be there, et cetera. So we would be able to vet that process.
This is a very good ordinance, and since I read through it, one of the drivers that actually drove this was the unauthorized camping along boat ramps along our rivers and causing blockage and trash and et cetera. So it doesn't prohibit it, but it gets more of a hand on it to control it, and such where the county can post signs and, you know, show the county property, the access and stuff, and let the public know that if they desire to do that, that they have to come to the Parks and Recs and apply for a permit and stuff. I think it's a great thing. And it's a free permit, right?
Correct.
Mark?
I got a question. If we're just more concerned about allowing camping at the future civic center site or rec centers, can we just identify those? I mean, we don't have to, or can we take some boat ramps out, saying no camping whatsoever? Red Bluff, Reeves Ferry, Horry's, we don't have the space down there. You can't park them. I mean, you can't unload a boat and park now. I go to Red Bluff fishing and I can't get in. I have to leave. You know, drive to Bucksport or somewhere like that. Because there's no parking now.
So we could amend any way that you would like us to amend this. I believe the intent, though, if you go back to what the original discussion was the issues related to the boat landings, specifically the trash, the facilities or lack thereof. They're not designed as campgrounds. We don't have the bathrooms there. We don't have portable water. We don't have electric, etc. So you know, we can certainly amend it any way you would like. I think the intent, again, and the feedback that I received was if we have those one-off groups that wanted to use a facility, we would have that ability to be able to allow them to do it where the ordinance originally written would not give that ability.
You'd have basically an internal policy not to allow or not to permit camping on the boat ramps, correct?
it would be a process that we would be able to vet through permit.
On the smaller ones and stuff, you'd be able and stuff to deny them and stuff, but if you had a larger area, and if you had Cub Scouts and stuff, who, you know, happen to have an RV and stuff, you know, contained and stuff to where they wanted to go down and spend the night or something, you know, for an Eagle badge or, you know, something like that, so they could.
But I mean, there's definitely
You'd be more stricter on
some places that would allow
Yeah.
that. I mean, we don't need any camping on those that I just named at all. We
Right.
just don't have room for it.
I agree.
But I mean, I know there's some in your district that, you know, probably be suitable for Cub Scout stuff.
So if you're going to make it subject to somebody applying for a permit to do so, like when Bill talked about, we get 20 million tourists coming through here. So somebody shows up, are we putting up a sign that says, hey, you have to apply for a permit? All right, so then they show up on a Friday night. No, county was closed, I couldn't do it, and I'm just going to ask for forgiveness and do it anyhow. So how do you?
So if we take a boat landing as an example in that case, there is always that potential for somebody to show up and arrive at the site unpermitted. But as the ordinance is actually written, that would still be prohibited because a boat landing would only be used for the intent of recreational water purposes such as fishing, boating, etc. So they would actually still be in violation of the ordinance.
We do intend to put signs up in places
Okay.
to.
I just think it needs to be
advise the
very
public.
clear down to, you know, that people don't end up, people getting ticketed, but they really understand, or we give them a ticket and then they're like, boy, you know, you were closed for the weekend, so we couldn't do it anyhow. So we just have to, you know, keep
You
being
could
defined.
probably utilize PIO to get the message out through the tourist community.
We can use the PIO. I'm sure there would be sort of a soft launch if there's a violation early on or immediately after. I'm sure the law enforcement's more flexible for a period of time until it's actually well-known and established. So there will be
Y'all
signs.
got the
in place.
signs.
Yeah, there will be.
Coming and stuff that are going to mark the boundaries.
Yes.
Because at a lot of these ramps and there's private land that comes right up to the boat areas and such where if a person has, you know, permission and such to camp on that, so you can't, you know, stop them and stuff. But if ours are clearly marked and such, then, you know, we'd be able to handle it.
Mr. Chairman, are there a time limit where you can't be there after 11 o'clock or midnight? A cutoff time?
Sorry.
So according to DNR and in regulations with them, the boat landings can't technically be closed as long as it's being used for recreational water activities, again, such as boating or fishing.
And
They need to
catfish
remain-
at night, Bill.
Yeah, they need to remain open.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Probably the biggest thing, Mark, you know, hit on it, and I've got, I think, 9 of them and stuff inside of my area, is that these people who will pull in there and obstruct the ramps and stuff and stay 3 or 4 or 5 days a week and stuff. We actually have that. And they'll throw the trash out, so they'll have campfires and things, and, you know, then you have alcohol and stuff, then you have fights or, you know, whatever and stuff. I mean, it's just, it happens. And so I had asked them and stuff to go through this to hopefully work towards a future of straightening out and cleaning up our ramps to where the people can, you know, enjoy it, such as fish and hunt, you know, there for that purpose. So, any further comments, questions?
We would need a motion to amend.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now,
And then we
back
would-
to the original motion, send it to council.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that's as amended in the packet.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item B, an ordinance amending Article 2 and Article 14 of the zoning code. The water one, Ms. Heather Davis.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Okay. Thank you all. I have a couple of text amendments that I'll be running through this morning. So the first one that I'm gonna go over is amusement uses. We changed this to allow indoor amusement use within the commercial agriculture AG2 and agricultural community services AG3 zoning districts. The definition of indoor amusement was amended to include indoor batting cages, And we revised the land use and definition of sports facility to sports complex to clearly distinguish it from firearm training and sports facilities. And if you'll notice up there on the screen, you can see where we amended the charts and placed it to be allowed.
Any questions?
No helicopters, right?
Gotta be careful down there.
No, I'm not gonna be careful.
Have a motion to send this on to council?
Motion so moved.
All in favor? All right, Ms. Heather again, so you're gonna be up here a little while.
Just a little bit.
An ordinance amending another article.
Yes, sir. The Highway 17 overlay. So the overlay establishes unified development standards to promote a sense of place. It's something that gives you an idea so you know where you are. It specifically addresses building exteriors, fencing, lighting, and signage. The overlay generally covers 250 feet to the east and west of the right-of-way lines. Currently, the overlay follows US 17 business south from the town of Surfside Beach south to the Horry County line. This proposed amendment will extend the overlay on Highway 17 bypass from Highway 544 south to the Horry-Georgetown County line. And you'll notice the map up there we added where it will be included now.
Any questions?
Yes, so explain this overlay for the Highway 17.
It's so it's the Highway 17, the business one that we currently utilize. It's going to be on this use now for this portion as well.
For what purposes?
To
An overlay.
basically regulate the development that's going in that area. We want to be able to kind of regulate what is coming out there.
So-
We don't just want people to be able to pop up and do.
So just controlling
It's a little more control, yes, sir.
corridor from what
Yes,
can
sir.
go in there. And we don't have that list or requirements yet.
In those requirements, there will be more landscaping buffer requirements, and also the way the buildings look, there'll be specific requirements as far as how they have to be designed and look in those areas.
The gas stations kind of
Yes, sir, that would cover that
Yeah,
also.
yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's more about appearance than the
It would be-
specific business.
Make it look
That's
nice.
right. It wouldn't change anything as far as use.
Right.
But the use that goes there would.
No,
look
that's
different.
very
It
good,
would
very good. Thank you.
And it's only pertaining to this section of Highway 17 in the county, right?
Right.
Well,
South
almost
end.
from Georgetown to the state line.
That's Gary and Tyler
Me?
and you, part of you, ain't it? Okay. Gary, and so do you have any comment on it, except because pertaining to your area? You're good with it?
Good.
Okay.
More than good with it. So move, Mr. Chairman.
All righty, send it on. Next up, another amendment, item D.
All right, the temporary vending overlay zone, and this is temporary vending as it relates to special events. These events often utilize public streets, facilities, or services and may impact or consume public resources. Special event permitting is governed by Section 13-34 of the Horry County Code through the Public Safety Division, with additional regulations provided in Article 8 of the Horry County zoning ordinance. So this change will match the language of Section 13-34 and it will help provide a consistent system of special event permitting. This proposed amendment will allow vendor permits during spring and fall bike rallies for a period of 10 consecutive days. And the changes are reflected in the chart listed on the screen.
Any questions? All righty.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Next one. Second. All in favor, aye? Item E, a question on this. Did Dr. Dukes get with you about her amendment?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Carry on.
Okay, so the Little River Overlay Zone, as I previously mentioned, the overlay establishes unified development standards. So again, this overlay zone might have different standards from another one, but it's going to give us the development that we want for the area. And this overlay begins at the North and South Carolina state line and travels south to the overpass of Highway 90 at the intersection of Highway 9 and Highway 17. The proposed amendment will allow the replacement of existing digital or manually changeable copy signage with digital signage.
Any questions?
Well, kind of. You said digital signage is Prohibited or allowed?
It'll be allowed.
Blinky, blinky.
Yeah, be careful with these billboards only. I'll let someone else handle that.
No further question, need a motion, move it on.
So,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okey-dokey.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heather. Moving on to item F, an ordinance amending Article 9, Raj, back in town.
Good morning. So I'd like to give a brief recap of the last meeting about asphalt, concrete, and batch plants. So in the last time our meeting, we discussed this as a discussion item. So we are approaching this issue in two ways. One is adopting new industrial corridors for the comprehensive plan, and other is changing some modifications to our current ordinance. So the ordinance that you have in your packet has some corrections that we are trying to enhance few of the developments. So few of the asphalt plants coming into town, we want them to be able to actually build them. Currently with the regulations of 1,000 feet separations and enclosed requirement, it's hard for them to actually build a plant because of the residential all around the county. So we propose these three amendments to the ordinance. One is remove the enclosed facility requirement, and the second one is to remove maintenance of public streets, and then third one is to reduce the separation requirement from the residential use. So we reduce from 1,000 to 500 feet.
Question on the maintenance of the street. So you're talking about pulling away the obligation of the plant to maintain the public street it accesses?
Yes, sir.
I can see that could be an issue.
I see the whole thing as being an issue.
Well, the point of this was to try to find an avenue to invite more competition into the county with growth. And we asked staff to take a look at this, and so it may not be perfect, and so it may need to be sent back to, INR.
well, I don't know.
I have a question.
Okay.
Sorry, Mikey.
That's all right.
Our question before to y'all were to try and find areas in the county where we're building all this $5 billion worth of roads where we can set up plants, so our costs will be reasonable. It won't be down, but reasonable. That's more important than what the plant's responsibilities are. And, finding areas that there are no residential around that we can offer to people that want to come here and put up a plant. Now, we have to have regulations, of course. We have to have setback and dust stuff, but anyhow, that's what I thought more so than just the regulations of the roads they're accessing or the buildings. That was my understanding, but we need all this too. But we really need locations. We need to rezone some areas and say, hey, we've done this, just like industrial parks. We'll build an industrial park and try and attract people to that park. So that we need to do the same thing for this asphalt and concrete plants. We need to get the land, get it ready, so they'll come. We can use them for the next 25 years.
So there's two efforts going on. This is one side of it, and the other side, I think, is.
Right, I agree, I understand you.
Now,
Just one.
Legal question. Why can't we zone or change to where these batch plants can go inside of these industrial parks?
I mean, that's up to them to try and figure that out, yeah. Our staff to.
Because we've got two now on the western side of the county, fixing to possibly have three. And
Talking Ascot Valley, Cool Springs.
And again, those industrial parks
Yeah.
should have to meet, again, the same regulations, 1,000 feet separation. So if we have industrial park big enough, they still have to meet that separation. So in this amendment, we gave them a break of 50%, which would be 250 feet instead of 500 feet. Inside the park.
Inside of the industrial park.
Inside the park. So if you don't want to place them in
Mm-hmm.
residential areas and stuff, but I'm just, thinking with our current industrial parks, there are no residential areas around them right now. Yeah, Mark?
I'm just gonna say, I mean, I understand what we're doing. I don't think it's gonna reduce the pricing. I know it's more competition, but the price is the price, and just like the lumber, everything we're doing, I mean, until we quit building and quit paying for it, the prices aren't going down. Danny's fought that battle at Wild Wing. Dennis has probably been down that road. Residential came to, came to the industrial park, basically. That vast man, but reducing these setbacks. The problem is rezoning. You can reduce them down to 10-foot setbacks, and you're not gonna get them rezoned because the community's gonna come out. Unless it's a large parcel like Danny had in his district. He didn't have any opposition. It's gonna take these bigger tracts set back out of the way, but I can't support this. Knowing what we've been through and what the problems we'll have in the future, to reduce these back to 500 feet and 250 feet from residential, ain't no way. And I'm getting on board with that.
How many enclosed facilities do we have in the county?
Right now, currently, I believe only one. That is concrete plant. And if you see the map on the right, it's hard to see, but the stars, those are the complete asphalt and concrete plants in the county.
So you have one that's actually enclosed.
One
That
is
is
actually
this gentleman, Mr. Steele.
But now-
Building another one. All right, well, here's the question. So when, how long has it been since we adopted that they had to be enclosed?
I believe sometime in
It's been several years.
2020 or 2019 something.
All right, and then obviously why was, and I'm sure that was an ordeal to try to get that.
That was about 15 years ago.
Okay, so there was an ordeal, I'm sure, trying to get that pushed through, and probably for good reasons. So have those, so you're just gonna throw that out now and say, don't worry about it after you fought to get that put in place? Seems kind of, I have to agree with Mark, kind of going backward with all the development you have in there. There's gonna be houses put up there, and then the people are gonna complain that, we got this activity going on. And, maybe it was there beforehand, but look what we just went through last week with the mental health. People bought knowing what was there, but that doesn't keep them from complaining. And if you let them be closer, they're gonna complain that much more.
You may want to consider treating asphalt plants and concrete plants separately. To enclose a concrete plant a concrete plant can probably reside closer to if it's been enclosed, can probably fit better in your neighborhood than an asphalt plant. The asphalt plants are typically more often run at night. They also have the burners and the odors and things like that come. Enclosing of an asphalt plant may not be as beneficial as enclosing a concrete plant. They may not have the same challenge.
Well, and when I think about the dust and all from them, and I'm not an expert by no means, but I go down to Bell and Bell, and I was down there and bought my truck a year ago. They had cars back there, the vehicles covered. I mean, they were covered in dust from the batch plant behind. Of course, they did have some kind of explosion or something down there. I don't know what took place and caused a big deal, but it's just, I don't know about the enclosure part. That may be a good thing, may not be. I just don't know, but it's 500 and 250 feet. I think I have just asking for a lot of issues, a lot of problems. Planes.
You want to look at loosening it for county industrial parks only?
I think the industrial part.
Because you're already moving to it. I mean, that's a well-known.
Like Al said, we really don't have any residential stuff, I don't think, around most of the industrial park.
Yeah.
To speak on that part, I just dealt with me and Sandy Davis just looked at that just the other day, and even in our industrial parks, she struggled to find an area to meet all these standards that they have to meet as far as separation. We did end up finding an area in the Cool Springs Park, but it had to be pretty much centrally located in the middle to be able to meet the separation from everything else.
But if we change,
even in industrial parks, even though it's already zoned for it, they still struggle to meet these separation requirements and different things.
but if we change the ordinance and stuff, because I know that Cool Springs, instead of putting it in the middle, if you moved it to the back corner, it joins all of that swamp and all of that's wetlands, and nobody's gonna build up stuff back there. So, you know, if the ordinance was changed to take it away from the central location of the park, move to the back corner, that'd be perfect. I think it would be. So now that's a common sense. Look, there, I mean.
Those county roads in the industrial park, like a cool
Yeah.
things that we can keep up.
Are you showing any asphalt plants on those little red dots?
Yeah, only yellow ones. There are only 3 in the entire county.
Yep.
Okay. Yellow ones, okay.
So we're,
We need more asphalt plants than we do concrete.
That's the whole point, I
yeah,
think.
competition and capacity.
Yeah, we need to jump on that pretty quick, because time's coming.
Because as David has said, there's a huge difference between, David said, there's a huge difference between asphalt and a cement batch and stuff, because the one that's up there on, you know, a 501 and stuff where you see the star, and so if you think that that's a plant, so with trucks, man, hauling out, you know, mixed cement, that is mid-Atlantic drainage, and it joins our property. And they have been there 25 years, and so we've never had an issue. And last year, he approached me and asked if he could start, you know, a concrete, you know, a grinding a little bit. And he was offset 20 feet from us and so with the natural barrier, and he dropped on his side at that point, and he's put up a 15-foot dirt berm all the way down and stuff, and this worked great for us. So, you know, there's a difference between your asphalt and your cement and stuff for your tile, you know, plants and stuff, because they build tiles there. So this is something that I think that we need to really look into and actually start separating and, you know, setting up some different guidelines and stuff for these different plants.
I think we need to make a chart and give it to them to work on all the things we're thinking about, and won't give on this and won't give on that, and give it to them, let them have some direction.
Yes, sir, and so, because I would not want an asphalt plant there where that batch plant is and stuff, because I've been around asphalt plants and stuff, like and Dave said, there's smells all the time and stuff, they run at night and stuff, but that's a need. We've got to have them here.
We've got to have them.
But, so if we can separate the two somehow and, you know, move them around or find some spots and stuff to where they could, you know, come, that'd be a win-win, I think.
Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Steele has a comment. Can we let him speak one more time?
Hold on a second.
What is,
Yeah,
Mr.
you
Brown, is
involved.
I've been involved in this. Oh,
Hold on 1 second.
yeah,
okay.
what,
Hold on a second.
what is
Until the
the,
committee gets done.
what's the motivation to pull out them requiring to maintain the road? Because obviously those trucks wreak havoc on the roadway, and so why, again, what's the motivation for us to pull that out, requiring them to take care of the roads?
I'll help you with that a little bit. They would argue that we pay, you know, road user fees and taxes, and they pay a lot, because those heavy trucks pay a lot, because they cause more damage.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that you see at the entrance that's different is the concentration of it.
But therein lies the
Right.
problem, because they're
Right.
in and out of that same
Right.
road every day in, day out, and they're, yeah.
We have had several to tell us that they cannot do it per their insurance. Their insurance won't allow them to work out there. True or not, I don't know. I've had that argument. Most of the time, it's a dust issue. If the road's where do you limit it? Is it only 100 feet, a few hundred feet in front of their property, or is it at the next intersection? It's a gray area that I think it's uncomfortable for us actually to maintain it. We don't have significant issues with that around with the different concrete plants and asphalt plants. We've got some roads with with a concrete and an asphalt plant on it, and we have to resurface a little more frequently, but not much. And
So the
roads
expense to the
hold up.
county, you're saying, is negligible?
It's not significant, no, sir. dust and dirt, you know, if they can be good neighbors and pick up their dust and dirt, their dust that falls out.
Mark, what do you think on that?
I mean, I trust what David says about the road situation.
Okay.
Anything further? So, Mr. Steele, and so would you come up again, please, sir? Somebody had a question for him?
I think he had
You
gone.
better- Well, look here, the only thing I would tell you, and this is from experience, there's nothing good about a concrete plant. I mean, let's face it, we know it. And I don't know anything about the asphalt business, never been in it. I know it's probably a cleaner operation than a concrete plant is. You're gonna have dust, you're gonna have dirt, you're gonna have the trucks tracking, more so around a concrete plant than you are an asphalt plant. It's just, it's the nature of the material. Personally, I feel like, you know, we can aesthetically, and I'm talking, when I say we, the concrete plant owners can, if they will put the attention to it, you can aesthetically make a concrete plant look better. But I'm sure most everybody around here, you ride by a concrete plant, it's a dust bowl. I mean, it is. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. Big Block Road's a good example. Big Block Road, basically for years, has always looked neat. We've done everything we could to mitigate the sound. We did everything possible to try to get along with the neighbors. But that's one of the few examples you can come up with. And that's why the regulations evolved to closing in the plant to try to prevent one on Old Wood Road, the truck drives in the building to be loaded. So basically, you've got that dust that's being contained in the building rather than flying out on the property. Is that an ideal solution? You go overseas, they're all closed in. But it does work. It solves the problem that we've all got. But the existing plants could be better if the owners would put the attention in it. But it's just it's a tough animal. You need the material, but you've got to deal with what you get out of it. I still feel like you don't want to mess with the setbacks. I would not touch now from a concrete plant. From a concrete standpoint, I would not touch what you've got from a concrete plant because you're going to be going backwards. You're going to invite what we've all gone through. A lot of people in this room know what we've all gone through the last 25, 30 years. Now on an asphalt plant, it may need to be addressed differently. But on a concrete plant, I wouldn't touch it. That's just my personal opinion. Anybody got any questions?
I think you said that to enclose it was about $400,000 when you did it in 2018.
We spent an additional $400,000 in
Have y'all looked at the numbers in today's numbers? You're looking at a new facility, how much it would cost to do
The
that?
one we're looking at right now is probably gonna cost us about $525. Which, you know, that's 8 years ago, so you're gonna have some increase in it. And granted, you got that initial investment. I realize you're jacking up the price of the plant, but long term, I think you're gonna eliminate some of your problems you got in the county.
From your standpoint as operator, does it help you any in your business other than it just enclosed to help with dust and stuff? I mean, with keeping your equipment better, anything at all to benefit you?
It makes for a cleaner facility. I mean, it's not making me any money. But then again, when you look at the initial investment, like over there, we spent a little over $3 million. So, you know, an additional $400,000 is you're going to make it back. So it's not really that big a deal. You hate to lay it out up front, but in the long term, if you have to, you just go into it knowing that.
Saving you some heart, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's not here complaining, so.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. My suggestion would be to send it back to staff and unless you know, have a sit down, you know, something and stuff before we bring it back, you know.
I make a
That's what
motion to
counts.
send it back to staff with some directions on some of the ideas that we have.
Separate asphalt and concrete, maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe if you're gonna require 500 feet or cut it to 500 feet, require it to be enclosed. I don't know.
And
It
to look
just
for
seems
an-
really close. I think, like I say, the big thing's gonna be getting them rezoned. And I don't think anyone in here is gonna have the appetite to rezone when the constituents come out against it, so.
If you're short, you're
No
sure
matter
not
what this
gonna
looks
do it.
like. Just my thought.
Okay, all right, you got instruction? Good deal. All righty, moving on to item G, correct? We're on G, right?
Yes.
An ordinance to add SP Hall Senior House to the Horry County Historic Property Register. Raj,
SP Horse House. This is located in the city of Conway, and as you can see on the map, it's currently a contributing structure in the National Historic District of city of Conway. And they went to the city of Conway to be on the local register, and now it will be on the county register. So the Historic Preservation Board heard this case, and they approved recommendation to be on the county register, and now it's coming to you all. And as you can see on the picture, that's what the house looks like. And the property is located in the Conway Residential Historic District. At the time of its designation, it is described as irregular 1.5-story house, Victorian styling with various gables. And in recent years, the property has undergone some modifications, including the replacement of multiple windows, as you can see on the picture to the right. But they're trying to restore, and now the request is to be on the county register.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
all in favor? Okay,
Thank you.
Now, last item in ordinances, Mr. Steve Brown, referring to setbacks. This is what we covered,
Yes, sir. Okay, today we'll be reviewing proposed changes that we're looking at making to our current buffering standards for major residential developments. This is something that staff has been working on now for about a year. While planning has been pretty much toeing the line on this, we've also been working with other departments such as stormwater engineering, code enforcement, so we can try to look at this from all perspectives and not just a county planning perspective. Along with working with the other departments, we've also worked alongside several of the professionals in the field. We've worked with developers, engineers, surveyors, the real estate community, not to mention the fact that council was represented at every meeting that we've had so far. I know a lot in this room were at some of the meetings. Tom Anderson is not here. He was at every meeting that we've had. But there was at least one, if not more, council members at every meeting that we've had to discuss this in detail up to this point. Now with all of that, I think that we've come up with what we believe is some good, well thought out changes that would be good for everyone, while also being something everyone can work with in the development community. So now we're going to look at the slides here. What we're looking at is everything on the left is coming in as development. Everything on the right is existing. So you got proposed on the left and existing on the right. And there's our current standards. Our current standards for a major residential development coming in adjacent to an existing major residential development. As you can see there are no buffering standards required in today's standards. If you have a major residential coming in against a existing residential home, what we've kind of coined as grandma's house, there are no buffering standards for that under today's standards. If you have a major residential development coming in against a non-residential or commercial, development or commercial use, they're required a 5-foot buffer with a 6-foot privacy fence. There's no landscaping in that buffer, it's just an open space area with a 6-foot privacy fence. Along external roads, a major subdivision coming in along an existing external road, depending on what type of road that you're on, it's either a 25-foot or a 35-foot buffer. On the lower order roads, it's the 25-foot. The higher order roads would be the 35-foot buffer. And then the last is a major residential development coming in adjacent to Spine Road, road that's being built for development. Road through Cameron Village is one of those examples where you've got the road that it connects through Cameron Village, but you also have through traffic going through that road. That would be what would be considered a spine road. Today, there would be no buffering requirements between a road like that and the development that's coming in.
That's all current standards.
That's everything that we've talked about here is all current standards. Next is those same scenarios that we just talked about under what would be the proposed standards. So you have your major residential development coming in today adjacent to an existing major residential development. Under today's standards, you would be required a 25-foot buffer. I'm sorry, you wouldn't be required anything under today's standards. Under these standards, you would be required a 25-foot buffer. Next would be your major residential on the left, adjacent, coming in, developing adjacent to Grandma's house. There would be required, with these new changes, a 50-foot buffer. Those buffers could be planted or existing vegetated buffer would be left. The next is major residential development coming in adjacent to a non-residential development, a commercial. So you go from 0 to 25, 0 to 50, 0 to, 5, and then 5 to 50. Next is the same roads that we just talked about under with these new proposed standards. The major residential development coming in adjacent to an existing external roadway, those buffers would be 100 foot. It can be either a planted buffer if you don't have buffers there already. If someone was developing a farm field, in that planted buffer would be required a 6-foot berm, 100-foot wide, 6-foot berm, tall berm with plantings on that berm, or if they do have, they're developing a forested property, they could have the 100-foot natural buffer. But that buffer is going to would go from 25 or 35 feet, what it is today, to 100 feet, what we're showing here. Next below that is that internal road that we talked about, that spine road where there is nothing required today under today's standards would be a 20-foot buffer, planted or existing vegetation. These are some real-world pictures here that we have. On the left by itself is our current standards, and this is a type C buffer of 35 feet along the roadway. That white privacy fence that you see there is not required. The developer put that in just because he wanted it, I guess, but the buffer that you see there would be the buffer without that fence for a 35-foot in today's standards. And that buffer has been that's the oldest one we could find because the regulations hadn't changed that long ago to this. This buffer is probably 4 or 5 years old. On the right side is what we were looking at proposing, and this on the top is a 100-foot buffer with a 6-foot berm with plantings on top of that berm. Behind that, there are houses. You cannot see them. Back there, barely, the tops of them maybe, but you wouldn't be able to see the houses for the most part. And then below that is another real-world picture. That's an actual picture that we took on the ground, and that's a 100-foot buffer that's naturally vegetated that was not disturbed when the development went in, and there's houses behind that, but you can't see them. Next is our current standards for non-residential, and you have your, again, the left side is coming in develop, the right side is existing. So if you have a proposed non-residential development, a commercial development coming in beside a residential home or an existing residential home, what's required under today's standards is a 25-foot buffer or equal to the setbacks for that zoning district. It's typically not going to be 25. Normally, it's probably going to be more around 10 or 15, not the 25. The next below that is your non-residential coming in, your business coming in beside another business, and they would be required a 5-foot buffer. Then you have your business coming in adjacent to an external roadway, and that's 10 foot. Next are the proposed changes in those same scenarios. This proposed change, we didn't change this, none of these very much. The only thing that did change that's kind of significant maybe is you have your commercial on the left adjacent to your major residential development or any single family development. We are requiring the buffer be at least 25 feet with a 6-foot privacy fence. So we took the option out to be 25 feet or equal to the setbacks, whatever's left. Less, it has to be 25 feet, and they have to have the 6-foot privacy fence. The next one, the non-residential to non-residential, we did not change, and the non-residential adjacent to an external roadway, we did not change. All that stayed the same. Can we get those papers handed out? What you have here is kind of a summary of all the changes that were made to the entire ordinance. We may have some questions about some of that. While you're getting those, one thing I did want to point out, we did put in some reductions for a couple different areas of the county. North and west of the Waccamaw River, you get a 50% reduction if you're not rezoning and you're developing properties that are 20,000 square foot or greater. If you do that, then you get a 50% reduction in buffers and the plant materials within those buffers.
That's for residential.
That's for residential. All this is for residential that we're talking about here. Next is the same thing. It's on the south and the east, but it's kind of the opposite. You get a 50% reduction, whether you have to rezone or not, for developing lots that's 10,000 square foot or less in those areas. So it's kind of helping maybe push the more dense development that way. Because that's where it is today. And then the next is east of Highway 17 business. And this is some of our areas that's more adjacent to some of the municipalities around us that are more densely populated. And we figured that to help with the infill there, they would need the smaller lots. We give them a 60% reduction on the landscaping and the buffering widths in those areas also. So that's 3 different scenarios that we added to that.
So is that saying, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
maybe I'm misreading it. So is that saying that if you develop bigger lots, you'll have less buffering?
And the western part.
So back up 2 slides.
That one?
No, one more. Yeah, that one. So you're encouraging smaller lots in this portion?
Yes.
10,000 instead of 6,000.
They're saying
6,000.
It's saying 10,000 or less.
Yeah. They're trying to push the development their way.
So if you're downsizing a lot, you're already allowing them to build more, so now you're taking,
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
yeah, it's like you're,
Well, you're going to have smaller areas to develop, and you won't have as much area, as someone maybe in the western part of the county for those larger buffers, and that's where it's most dense at anyway. So we're trying to.
Why are you offering a reduction in this part of the county at all?
The only reason of this reduction for dense population or good population is because we already have existing infrastructure built there. The services and the facilities are already there. We are not putting strain on the western part by allowing the small lots there. They're building the large lots.
No, I get that. I understand west of the Waccamaw, 1000%. And I even understand the infill lots
East of
along the
Spanish.
coast. What I don't understand is this.
Well, this is for areas, like Raj just said, that already have those utilities, already have, what we need in those areas for those smaller lots. And that's why we're giving a break on that. We're trying, like you said, we're trying to push the density more in those areas.
And typical rezonings we get for this area are MRD 1, 2, and 3, where we see multifamily and all those. So those are in line of 10,000 or less than those lots. So that's the reason, these are for rezoning.
But why are you incentivizing it by lowering the buffers? That's what I don't understand. Or is that something that came from the development?
That's
When we had
something
discussion.
that we did during discussion that we talked about, and it was.
Right. They're looking for a cheaper way out and get more volume. And it's not gonna stop a tract builder. They'll build in the high density and low density. They'll build wherever they can get land. They're not restricted to one area. You're not gonna push them. They're gonna do everywhere,
So give me a real-world scenario, tract development on River Oaks Drive.
So instead of doing 100 feet, they'll be doing 50 feet external road, and they'll either have a berm or natural vegetation that is preserved for 50-foot buffer.
Along an external roadway.
Everything is
Everything would be half of what we just talked about. But the 100-foot would be 50, 50 would be 25. So
But is that just a larger lot of 10,000 square foot? What are they asking for
a lot
7,000?
smaller
Less
than
than
10,000 or smaller.
Or smaller?
Yep. In the western part, it would be lots 20,000 or greater.
Yeah,
These are by
okay, I
right.
think that's what I'm getting confused on. I was thinking it was the
These
same
are by
way
right.
this side. Yeah,
No, these are by right or if you rezone, either way.
yeah, that's why I was getting confused.
Zonable rezone.
And the western part is only by right.
And mostly on the eastern side, you have smaller tracts of land that come into the development, not like 300 or 500 acres. They're like 100 acres, 40 acres, 50 acres.
Here's I don't have, in concept, I don't have a problem with that, except for along the roadways.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if there's a way to.
Sure, that's why we're here.
External roadways?
Yeah. Because, I want to preserve, I just want to preserve the look. Like, I wish we could make River Oaks look like Carolina Forest Boulevard. That boat has sailed, at least for most of it.
No, it's safe.
Well, there's still some tracks down towards 501 that are not developed yet, but.
Just revise it and along roadways, buffer has to,
And we own
no
that
reduction
track.
in buffer.
That's easy enough.
Horry County.
And that leads to my next question, is there anything that we can do to incentivize planting or buffering on already platted subdivisions?
Already platted subdivisions?
I would
They're
let you go through the next ones and then maybe we can explain that.
Okay.
So do you want that as an amendment on the external?
Yes, please.
Okay.
No reductions on external.
Road, so west, east.
Yes.
Well, I don't even care if it's a 25% reduction. I just want more buffer on the roadways.
Okay.
I thought we had that stuff already on your major corridors and stuff, but you're talking about with this, that would also subtract away from that.
Well, with this, you would still get more. It would be 35 feet, and then if they get 50% reduction, it would be a 50 feet, so it would get from 35 to 50. So it'd still be more.
Right.
But what Mr. DeSabato is asking is we don't give.
I'm saying instead of 50, maybe you do 75.
Okay, so 25% rather
Yeah.
than on the roads. Okay.
Just on the roadways.
Yes, got it. And you're good with the rest of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would be a motion. to
Yes.
amend
Motion
it.
to amend. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, so that's a 25% reduction on external roadways east of the river.
Yes, sir.
Or south and east, whatever.
Got it. Okay. Looking at the summary of changes that I just handed out there, A couple of things that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, I know there's probably some more on there you want to ask about, but number one, we did address clear cutting and tried to put something in the ordinance to hopefully slow that down. What we've done is if we have a property that's cleared, that's existing vegetated forest today, and they come in and they clear cut that property and bring those existing buffers down below the standards set forth in this ordinance, they could not develop that property for 3 years. They could not submit development plans for that property for 3 years.
So they have a 27-slide presentation if you want to see it. And I think
Well, most of us
consolidated.
have seen some of that, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Right.
we showed some of that in our smaller meetings.
Unless there's somebody else you desire to have it set for time-wise. So we just move
We
on.
got 30 minutes left to go.
Yeah.
You know,
So I wanted to address that because I think that's a big deal. And then the second thing, number two there, the increase in buffers in some major residential scenarios. For example, if some of these that they go and they subdivide off 5 or 10 lots along the roadway and then come in later and develop a major subdivision behind it. Under these standards, which come directly from what we've already got in MRDP, if they do that now within a 10-year period, all these buffers are boosted by 50%. So instead of a 100-foot buffer along the roadway, you'd have a 150-foot buffer. Instead of a 50-foot buffer adjacent to grandma's house, you'd have a 75-foot buffer. So all these buffers are expounded by 50% if they do that.
Okay.
That's all that I wanted to point out. Like I say, there may be more on there you want to ask questions about, but those two I felt like were significant that they needed to be.
We're gonna make that amendment and set the.
You made the.
you made the amendment here, so it's gonna go up to council as amended, right?
If y'all-
But
if y'all-
it's got to get a PC first.
Right.
Yes.
Right, right.
Everybody good with it? Motion, all in favor?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Heart
I think that's fine.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Steve.
Thank you.
All righty, that concludes our ordinances and our business. Your department reports are in your packets. We do have an executive session, correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gilbert? So at this time, ask everyone, or ask for a motion to go into executive session and then have a motion. And those that don't need to be in here, we ask you to politely please exit the room and we'll let you know when we come back in. Then we need to make a motion to adjourn until after the next meeting, I guess.
Motion to
Well,
adjourn.
well, before that violent executive session, council engaged in the discussion of contract negotiations. No votes were taken, no decisions were made.
Now, we make a motion to adjourn until after the public safety meeting. Would that be? Okay,
Make motion adjourn
till after the public safety meeting.
till after public safety. Who's gonna be here from this group to do that?
I guess all of us have to be, we gotta have to figure out what we're doing with it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.